Hello from New York City, where I am based in Manhattan. The neighborhood is called the West Village. I am a native New Yorker, grew up here, another at school. I've always been in New York. I am predominantly in the entertainment industry, as I said. I've got 4 careers. So I'm a career and life coach, coach lots of TV and film writers, producers, directors, set designers, puppeteers, animators, actors, the whole range of the entertainment industry. I also have a background as a talent agent, and I represented at William Morris, the big talent agency, TV production companies, selling original programming to the networks in New York and LA. Indeed, I am an entertainment lawyer. Thank you, Roger. I like to emphasize entertainment. I do not do house closings, prenups, divorces, trust wills, estates, or immigration law. And my 4th career, I'm an adjunct at School of Visual Arts here in New York. And my virtual class, thank you, pandemic, is all about pitching your scripted TV series. So anybody out there, if you've got a scripted TV series, you're a comedy writer, I'm your guy. So those are my 4. I've been leading workshops for StartOut now for probably about 7 or 8 years. I actually started doing live events for StartOut when they were pitching angel investors. And I got all the founders a week before they pitched the angel investors and worked on really strengthening their pitches. So I've been doing StartOut for quite a while. Want to welcome Moss. Where are you calling in from, Moss?
California.
Can't hear you.
Yeah,
seems like the volume's very low.
I don't know what I can do about that.
It got much better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
can. You got it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
You did it. Where are you
So I'm from Oakland, California.
Okay, the Bay Area. Beautiful. Okay.
Oh, and now I don't hear you. There's a problem. I'm going to sign back on.
Okay, that's good. Yes. So, okay.
So we now have the breadth of the United States represented.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And me, the king of the heart.
The rest of the globe.
Yeah, we
got represent the rest of the globe.
We got the Pacific coast. So let's just wait for Moss to come back in. That's why it's always good to just chit chat for a while while everybody figures out the technical aspects of Zoom. So we'll just wait a minute. And here he is. Let him in. See if it works. All right. Can you hear us now, Moss? No. Let's see what's happening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Now everything's fine. I have no idea what happened.
Okay, doesn't matter. That's the important thing. And hold on, we've got one more coming in. Luis. Hold on. And welcome, Luis. Love to see you on video and come off mute so we can get a sense of who you are, Luis. Okay, I probably scared him away too, but okay. We're gonna, people show up and they just want to, be in the background, but maybe he just had a bad connection. We'll see what happens. He may come back again. So anyway, that's my background. Love to hear more about each of you. So I know you briefly said what areas you're in, but go into a little bit more detail, especially since we got a small group. We've got plenty of time. So hold on, Christy is, maybe she's not so shy. She's coming back in. Hold on. Christy, welcome back. You want to let us know where you're calling in from? Okay. It's like, what can I tell you? We've got lots of shy people.
What is this? What is this, Grinder? Come
I
on.
don't know what it is. It's like, who knows? But
Yeah.
anyway, so the prompt to all of you is, with lots of specificity, what do you do in more detail career-wise? So let's start with Roger.
Uh, uh, in Australia. I have an accounting business. I help businesses improve their profits, cash flow, and business value. And I have a range of tools that I use depending on the circumstances.
Beautiful. And Mosen.
Yeah, so I'm kind of new, and my specialty is in science and technology and innovation. So I'm kind of excited to hear all about from the seniors. Yeah.
And you also mentioned, chemistry, textiles, coloring.
Yeah, biotechnology as well. Yeah. So I would say as long as life science, mostly in biotech and chemistry. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Donald, I know you work for the government.
Right, right. I am actually retired from my general career. I was an academic, spent my career in higher ed administration. I'm a former dean of students, and you will notice that behind my pronouns, which is becoming a standard habit in the United States anyway, is my age. And so I spend my time in aging advocacy, both the general aging community and the LGBTQIA community in particular. I sit on this commission, which is the second one in the United States. It's legislatively established, and we're very proud of that. Although we are facing tremendously impactful political times for the community here in the United States. Illinois is a blue island floating in a sea of red. We have full civil rights in this state, and in 29 of the 50 American states, our community does not enjoy full civil rights. And so I sit on the advisory council for the mayor of the city of Chicago and on the board of directors for 3 nonprofits, one of which is a project called One Roof Chicago, where we are in the process of building an intergenerational LGBTQIA plus culturally supportive housing development that will include 20 younger members of the community and 80 aging members of the community. And we are going to emphasize the need for intergenerational connection within our community.
Beautiful. Thank you, Donald. Let's go to Moss.
Hi. So in terms of my profession, I do brand strategy, brand marketing. I have a career in the consumer products area. I've also worked in services, and I now consult independently for a variety of clients.
Excellent. And welcome. Is it pronounced Louis-Jean?
Yeah, sorry. I was taking the call on my phone, and then I said I better go and connect on the computer. Hi, everyone. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, and first of all, where are you calling in from?
I'm from Mexico City,
Beautiful. Okay.
and I'm doing an effort to get into the venture capital career. It hasn't been easy, so I've never built my career around it, and not close to that. I'm not an investment. I don't come from investment banking or from startups, so I come from corporate. So I mean, it's been 9 months now. I've been working with some funds and supporting a lot of institutions, like being a mentor in StartOut is one of the things that I'm doing, and mentoring several institutions, and yeah, trying to get a formal income from venture capital, because most of my money I do it from consulting. SMEs and startups on digitalization and strategy.
Beautiful. So welcome everybody. So let me throw out to the group. We're not going to go around again. Just since we're all on the same screen, you can either wave your hand or you could just say it out loud because this is going to be very, very interactive. And there's actually no Q&A at the end. When you got a question, comment, or share, just bring it up in the moment. That's the most powerful way to do it. So when you hear the phrase tough talk, what comes to mind?
What phase?
Vulnerability.
All right, so one at a time. Go ahead. Whoever, just raise your hand. That'll probably be the easiest. Tough talk. Yes, Louis-Jean.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Yes, actually, a tough talk. Vulnerability is actually an asset because when you are vulnerable and open and transparent, that actually creates the strongest connection. Absolutely. Great. What else when you hear tough talk?
Confrontation.
Confrontation. Okay, Moss, what do you mean by confrontation?
I have a phone ringing in the background. What I mean by confrontation is having a difficult conversation that you need to have with someone that is going to be maybe an important conversation, but stop the regular flow of communication and focus on what that topic is and why it's so important to resolve, an issue.
All right. So, right, because a lot of people hear confrontation, they go, "Oh my God, it's a fight. It's me against them." So, the way you're interpreting confrontation is, hold on a second. There's something really important. Let's literally put it on the table and handle it.
Right.
Beautiful. What else? Tough talk. Yes, let's go to Donald, then Roger.
Well, when I think of tough talk, I think of conversations that people really don't want to have. They have to have them, but they'd rather not have them.
Beautiful. I'd actually go one step further. They may not like it. They actually do want it. Because the tough talk is something that's really meaningful. Otherwise, it would be tough, right? If you go to, a deli and you order a bagel with, 3 ingredients, well, that could be tough for some people, but it's not a tough talk. It's right. Okay, they're there for you. This is exactly what I want. And chances are what it's all about is that they're clear what you want to order, right? So a tough talk is one that is critical, right? And that's going to create all kinds of anxiety. The brain is working full time to keep you safe and small. A lot of times to avoid it, do anything you can to avoid it, right? It's dangerous. You don't know what's going to happen, right? And that often comes from, our upbringings, what we learned, right? So yes, tough talk, you may not want it. It's really critical. Roger, tough talk, you were going to share.
Honesty.
Honest, absolutely, right. So a tough talk is all about honesty. I use the word authenticity. I use the word transparent. I also use the word vulnerable that Louis-Jean brought up right away. I also use the word openness. There's an invitation to have the tough talk. What else comes up for folks?
I want to pick back up on your last statement about an invitation. I mean, a lot of people don't see it as an invitation. They see it as being forced upon them.
Right.
And not having an option. Because often it's whoever has the power who's dictating the confrontation or the moment of the tough talk, like a boss or client, or it could be a lot of things.
Right. So this workshop is all about making it losing the fear and making it easy, getting the confidence. So we're actually not talking about, although it does happen, that's not a tough talk. That's an order, right? It's like, okay, this is the way it's going to be done. I don't want any conversation. Right. We're not talking about that. We're talking about situations in your career. And by the way, whatever applies to career applies to your personal life as well. So let's talk about a tough talk where two people, or maybe it's a team, they actually want to have a conversation. They may not like it, but they want to have it. And how do you get through all that anxiety, fear, and everything else that comes up with it?
Well, if I'm the initiator of the talk, for me personally, I'm concerned not only about what I'm communicating, but the impact on the people of what I'm communicating, because I want them to see me as a fair and compassionate person. But
Right.
sometimes things are hard, things just have to be said. I don't want them to be devastated by that, you know. And if I'm the recipient of a tough talk, I want to survive it. I don't want.
Okay. All right. So let's break that down, because there are always two sides to any conversation. So the first thing you shared, Donald, is, and it's very powerful insight, is to be aware of the impact you're going to have on others, right? What the language is going to impact, the tone is going to impact, what you're wearing, your body posture, right? Because communicating is all about those, right? It's the inflection, it's the pacing of your conversation, right? So it all starts with the awareness of all of that and how you communicate to the other person, right? And to be very mindful of that. Absolutely. And then you said for the recipient, what was the concern there?
And I just want to survive it. I
want to survive. Right. Okay.
In a positive and constructive way.
Okay, got it. Right. So yes. So quite often, the recipient, if it's not set up properly, and that's the key, and I'll get to that in a second, is like, uh-oh, here it comes again. How am I going to get through it? Right. And my favorite example is when I grew up, if my father literally came into my room and closed the door, I knew it was all over. I knew it was, I'm in the doghouse. I won't be able to talk. It's one-sided. The belt can come out every so often, you know, not a lot, but every so often there's a little, okay, I got the belt thing. And as soon as that door closed, I was trapped. How am I going to survive this, right? So what you want to do is create a relationship where it's not that closed door. Oh my God, it's all over. It's one-sided. How am I going to survive?
Yeah.
So, yes, Louis-Jean.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's also like trying to find that both people are in the mood, because sometimes sometimes what happens to me, I want to have a tough talk and maybe I'm not ready for that. And my emotions can actually, I don't know what's the word, but my emotions can actually bring a different message or the tone that I wanted to have in the conversation.
Yes.
And that brings me to another thing that sometimes is, it takes me a lot of time to take that conversation because I'm trying to find the right moment instead of maybe creating it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So before I'm going to give you some thoughts about that. I just want to welcome John. John, if you want to come off mute and say hello to the group and let us know where you're calling in from.
Hello, everyone. I'm calling in from Boston.
Boston, great. And John, would you be good enough to come on video so we can see you?
I'm going to be camera shy because I have a cold. So,
well, we're very forgiving, and since it's Zoom, we cannot catch your cold, as far as I know, right? So
I'll pass on that. Thank you, though.
Okay, but as long as you're there, please participate. And John, would you briefly tell us what do you do career-wise?
I am a currently a fellow, and I have a background in medicine, and so I'm a fellow, and I commute between Boston and Washington. I'm a fellow in Washington.
Excellent. Well, welcome, Boston. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Louis Jean, you brought up an excellent point called timing, right? When is the right time to have that conversation? And of course, it's going to be different from not only every situation, the relationship you have with the other person. The important thing is, and Moss said it, that conversation needs to be had. And as long as you're not in the place of avoidance, right? And you just say, no, not yet, or ignore it, bury it, right? That's not timing. That's timeless, where you actually don't get to the conversation. So it's totally fine for one of the people to say, you know what, I'm not ready right now to have that conversation. I'm overwhelmed. I'm emotionally distraught. I mean, whatever you want to say, that's fine. That's called a timeout. Now, the important thing is, when you call that timeout, is to come up with a time and date to have the conversation, right? Because otherwise it gets lost. People forget it. Everybody's going, well, I'll wait for you to bring it up. I'm not going to bring it up. It's not, so you always want to set the date and time to have it. And yes, there are times when it's just the timing is off, whatever that means to both people, as long as it's not avoidance. That's the big thing. All right. What else comes up when you think about tough talk?
I think of the balance of power.
Okay. Yeah. In what way, Donald?
Well, a tough talk for someone who has more power or more standing than I do is really intimidating.
Okay.
But a tough talk where there's equal power, where we're speaking
Yeah.
at the same level or whatever, can be reinforcing.
Yeah. So how can you go from power imbalance to, I'll use the word parity?
I think the person in power, or the person with the most power, has to invite the person with the lesser amount of power to a position of parity. If you're the boss and you say, I want us to speak at the same level because we have the same concerns or whatever. I'm not speaking ex cathedra. I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to get.
Absolutely. I'll add to that it's also the responsibility of the person to claim their voice in the conversation and to look at each other as peers or colleagues, right? Because if there's that power imbalance either way, there's a big gap, right? And the heart of any tough talk is trust, right? And trust comes from a strong connection. It comes from, thank you, Louis Jean, from vulnerability, right? It comes from transparency and openness. And this is where the tough talk is most powerful, right? I mean, yes, there are different levels of positions and experience, and yes, you acknowledge that for purposes of tough talk, we're peers and colleagues for that tough talk.
What about, I'm just gonna put an example relating with Donald. Like, if you need to have a tough talk with a person with a higher position wherever you're working, like, it would be nice maybe to have it either, like in a meeting room that it's not the office of the boss, or, if you're gonna have it personal with someone, maybe it shouldn't be at my house or their house, or trying to find a place where we both feel balanced. Like, I
Right.
think the place where you take the conversation helps
it.
a lot to reduce that gap.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I'm always for in-person conversations. Zoom, by its very nature, we're all
Yeah.
equal. If you think about
Right.
it, right?
That's a good one.
We're all equal, you know, as an alternative or as a possibility, right? But to your point, in person, absolutely, you want to have what I call, you know, a neutral location, right? Because if it's in the boss's office and he's sitting behind the desk, you know, that's 150 years old and it's made of giant wood, and you know, then it's like there's already a distance. Even if you go to a conference room, you don't want somebody sitting at the head of the table, and you're on the side. So just side to side, where whatever feng shui creates that sense of we're peers and colleagues working through a tough conversation. So great point. Great point. Anything else that comes up around a tough talk? Yes, Roger.
I've got a current situation with a fellow I'm working with. He's a lovely guy, but just a talker.
Okay.
And so he dominates the conversation and admits it.
Okay.
And I struggle to get a point in, and sometimes I miss the point I was going to make because he keeps talking and we get on to his next subject.
Great. So how have you handled it? And what have you thought of doing that you haven't done yet around
that? I don't have it here, but I had a cousin that was exactly the same. And I made up a little ruler with a red flag on it, red stickers on it.
Yeah.
And I used to just wave it when he'd get into a rumble. So I've told this guy, this is what I want to do. And sometimes I just interrupt, but sometimes he's so in the flow of what he's saying, he just doesn't hear anything.
How did that work?
It worked well.
Okay, so
for a while.
Right. So what is really important in any conversation, part of safety are, what I call terms of engagement. How are we going to interact with each other, right? Some people call them boundaries. I call them terms of engagement, right? So it could be as simple as, one complete sentence or one complete thought, stop and let the other person respond or give a reaction. It could be something like that. Or it could also be, if you're not hearing me, I'm going to wave, so it doesn't come as a surprise or disrespectful. It's a clue.
Yes.
It's a cue, right? But you can absolutely, and the best time to come up with the terms of engagement are when you're not having a tough talk, right? Where it can be emotionally charged, voices can be raised, and part of terms of engagement is, no, there are no raised voices. There's no shouting.
Yeah.
There's no, you could be passionate about your position. You could challenge each other. And there's also what I call active listening. You really, without having to agree or disagree, you're listening, understanding the other person, and actually reflect back what you're hearing. That is critical for a tough talk. So it could be, okay, boss, so let me be sure I understand exactly what you're saying. Oh my God. How often do you hear that from somebody? Rarely.
Yes.
So
yes, I have heard when you meet someone, the polite way to do it is talk for 20 seconds and then look for a reaction. And if they want to speak, you hand over the speaking. And if they don't jump in, you can talk for another 20 seconds, but then you've got to shut up, sort of thing.
Whatever works between two people. It's like, it's a contract. You negotiate. You both put what your needs are, right? Because putting needs out for a tough talk it creates safety. And you want to know what besides trust, safety is critical to any tough talk.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts?
Very good.
get.
I like the idea of contract because that says to me that both parties have to make a commitment to that
Yes,
conversation.
absolutely.
One really doesn't want to be there, doesn't participate, then
Won't work.
the talk is not happening just because
Right.
words are coming out of one person's mouth.
Yeah, and I actually recommend that the two people put the terms of engagement in writing. You don't need legalese, you don't need lawyers to review it. It's terms of engagement, and you actually both sign it. Louis Sean.
It comes to mind something that pop talks may be related to moments where you have to do a conversation in an area where you're not an expertise. Let's say that you are on a negotiation and you're new in a sales department.
Right.
So I kind of remember like one of my toughest conversations was like closing a deal, my first time trying to close a deal. And just going back to that moment when you're in an area where you don't have expertise,
Okay.
something that happens to me is that I give too much into the vulnerability. And I try to open vulnerability to create empathy and take off all our like shields, our armors.
Armor.
But sometimes can be, most of the times when it's something personal, it works perfect. But
Right.
when it's sometimes professional, it can, I don't know if it's the way I do it. Maybe it's not vulnerability. Maybe it's I put myself as, I don't, sorry guys. My brain is going, I'm trying to find the words, but confidence. Maybe I don't position myself in the situation where I'm actually at, and I put myself into a lower position. So then it doesn't present me in a, I don't know how to explain it, but I would just leave it in lack of confidence. And that maybe when you put yourself in a lower position that you are, maybe that gives the opportunity for the other person to don't see you as equal. I don't know if I'm making my point. Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Well, I'm hearing a couple of things. I'm hearing, what if I'm in a negotiation, conversation, whatever it is, and something comes up that either I don't know that area or I don't have an answer to a question. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing lack of confidence, which, by the way, I in my experience as a coach, it's rarely that. It's usually something else, right? Or what I also heard was, well, I don't want to push myself. I don't want to be a risk taker. So I'm going to settle for a lower position, right? So which of those three, I mean, they're somewhat tied together. They're not quite tied together. Which one is the most important one for you?
I think for me is the last one. And if I can rephrase this, like, because of my certain insecurities, when I have one of my toughest conversations is trying to position myself as an expert in an area that I may not be the total expert, but I know about it. But when I talk with someone that I believe that it's an expert,
yeah,
I feel less, and that turns the whole conversation in a tough conversation for me.
Okay, so that ties into a couple of themes we talked about already. And one thing that came to my mind right away is, transparency, right? As you could say, I'm an expert in certain areas. I'm not an expert in other areas. Or you don't even have to call you an expert. Say, I have a really good knowledge of this, but there are other components that I rely on other people. I bring in consultants. I bring in colleagues to brainstorm things, right? But the important thing is that you're transparent, right? The last thing you want to do is pretend, or as one of the worst phrases that coaches hate is you fake it till you make it, right?
Mhm.
And that actually never works, because if you're faking it, no matter how great an actor you are, you're not going to come across as genuine, and the other person's going to feel that. They're going to feel you're holding something back. You may not think it, they do. So the first thing, Louis Sean, is this is what I know. And you know what? I don't know that. Now, ideally, if it comes up unexpectedly, you want to be able to say, I know who to go to get the answers. Right? So
Thank you, Jim.
when you're having a conversation or you're presenting something, you want to anticipate every question that you possibly can. You know, what does that person want to know? Would they want to know anything that I don't know? Right? So you're preparing for that conversation, and you're saying, okay, there's certain areas that, you know, I just don't get. It's not me. You know, that's fine. Right? Anything technical for me is like, right? You know, but I know who to call in. You know, if well, for phone, it's, you know, my buddy at Apple. You know, if it's the website, I have a web designer. I pay that web designer, you know, monthly fee to take care of everything that I need. Right? I'm not ashamed of it. He's the expert, right? So transparency, owning what you do know, right? Because it's easy to go to, oh my God, I don't know that. I don't know that. Well, okay, normalize it, not required. Own what you do know, right? So, so Moshan, you got to leave?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to leave because they are closing the place. So yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
I mean,
yeah. But I assume I would have access to the video recording.
Okay.
Hopefully.
And, well,
Yeah.
before you go, I was going to mention this at the end. My gift to everybody is a complimentary 30-minute coaching session on FaceTime or Zoom. And just reach out to me through my very simple to remember website, which is jimarnoff.com. Okay. The other thing, Motion, what's one takeaway you're going to take, you know, you can leave with from this workshop?
Well, basically, the confrontation and the must thing to do. I mean, you have to take actions. Doesn't
Yes.
matter how you feel,
Exactly.
but
Yes.
that you do the right thing. So leave the emotions behind,
Yes.
and yeah, from that perspective, it might help.
Yeah. And just know
Yeah.
before you leave, having a tough talk is courageous and bold.
Yeah.
And it will scare the bejesus out of you. You're going to think you're going to die. You're not. And guess what? That's where the growth and strengthening comes from.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Thank you for showing up. Beautiful.
Thank you very much, Jim. Yeah. Thank
Got
you.
it.
Bye.
Louis Sean. All right. So I said a lot. What are your thoughts?
Thank you. I love the phrase that you said, owning what I do know.
Yes.
So I mostly say, I'm not an expert, I don't know this and blah, blah, blah. So I try to set the whole stage that I'm not an expert instead of saying, I know this and owning what I know.
Yes.
And then just until the conversation brings something that I may not be an expert and I may not have the answer, then I can say, I don't do this and I rely on someone else instead of trying to put the whole scenario that I'm not expert in that, because that brings, I think, like I don't know, like people, I don't know how to say it. Sorry, I'm trying to find the word, but I can't find it.
And you don't even have to go to any negative, like, well, I don't know that. I don't do that. Just to say, you know what? Let me tell you who I bring in, right? So always the positive. Moss, thoughts, comments?
So yeah, a couple comments. One is, I think, Lucia, the other thing that you can own is your commitment to learning
Yes.
that field, that area,
Right.
And, I'm committed to knowing everything about this. I'm on a journey and, it's constantly evolving and I'm continuing to learn.
Yep.
The other thing is going back to Jim, what you were talking about, I feel like not every situation needs to be a formal, kind of thing with a written contract. And it feels very like, for instance, Roger, you were talking about this coworker of yours who is like a blabbermouth. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing you sit here, you have a contract over. It's a conversation. It's not an easy conversation. It needs to happen. It feels very awkward, the idea that you would implement some kind of written form thing and have people sign. It just takes something that is a hiccup that needs to be discussed into, to me, a blown out of proportion event. Do you agree or you disagree?
It's a very valid point. I would, my thinking about that is, depends on how serious the situation is, right? Because I mean, yes, I'm a lawyer by trade, and I also know that putting things in writing creates clarity, creates commitment, that very powerful word, and it doesn't have to be written like a contract. It could be very simple English. It could be 1 to 10, and just have initial it, right? So
Yes, you are a former lawyer.
yeah, I'm still a lawyer, but I just know that, if you want to do email exchanges and you both say, yep, that's it, fine, whatever is comfortable, and it depends on your relationship, right? Sometimes you don't need this. If it's a relationship that is about to explode and it's been miserable and there are lots of issues, well, you first of all want to simplify everything, because as a coach, I work with my clients to simplify their lives. And when I draft a contract, it's plain English. Every word, any person's going to understand them. They don't need a lawyer to interpret what I write. So to your point, and it's a very valid point, Moss, see what feels right for the two people, right? If it's something that it's not complicated, it's one thing in particular, you come up with a solution, great, fine. I'm simply suggesting for certain, and thank you for bringing this up, by the way, certain situations, it can help a lot. Whatever, whatever feels right. Roger.
I told this fellow I'd read in a book, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is a great book, but he talked of people that constantly talk, and he said their view is the world's a better place for hearing what they've got to say.
I'm sure.
So they just keep talking.
Yeah. And you wanna intervene and give some feedback. And actually, if it's part of tough talk is giving feedback. And one way to start, especially where it is sensitive feedback, is to ask permission. Like, may I give you some what may come across as sensitive feedback? It's something that has been on my mind. It's been really tough for me to get the courage to talk to you, and I'd like your permission to give you feedback. Now, first of all, everybody's going to say, of course. The fact that you ask permission shows respect, right? And here's my master list of what everybody wants in any relationship. They want to be valued, respected, heard, understood, seen, and supported. Those 6 words, when you include those in any tough talk, that's going to turn into a miracle talk.
This is John.
Say what?
This is John.
Yes, John.
I think the last speaker asked for that list of things again, but I have something to bring up. His request was, can you give that list? And I also thought the list was very helpful, to be seen, to be heard, etc.
You want me to repeat it?
I believe the last questioner had requested it before I jumped in.
Oh, you want me to go over the 6 questions, 6 requirements?
I think that was what the last speaker asked for.
Oh, okay.
But that is not what I'm asking for. I
Oh,
jumped
okay.
in as he was asking that.
Okay.
Sorry.
What do you need, John?
Okay, sure. And the tough talk situation that I'm currently involved in has many of the elements that we've talked about so far in this Zoom call, and that is uh, uh, I'm in an office of about 50 people, and there are 2 people who I have some issues with
Okay.
in terms of the way I feel like I'm treated. One is a colleague of mine. So on the organization chart, she's on par with me. And
Okay.
another is the head of the office. And both of them talk nonstop. They don't stop and listen. And they treat me with one of them has said it, that you're a fellow, so you're the lowest person on the totem pole, and you got to do what I tell you to do. But unfortunately, that's not the case in real life, because uh, I I'm more senior than they are in real life. But in
Okay.
this particular situation, um, somebody who is on par with me has explicitly said to my face, "You're a fellow, and we expect you to basically grovel to them." And I just find it so uncomfortable to interact with both of them.
Absolutely. So how ready are you, John, to have a tough talk with the 2 of them? Whether it's, I don't know whether it's together or separate, whatever makes sense.
So for the one who is on par with me,
Yeah.
before I say anything more, as you can imagine, I have been avoiding both of them.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense. Yep. Sure.
for the one who's on the same level as me, um, a number of people over time who have known her have felt that way, as I have learned since my initial interactions with her.
Okay.
And I've discussed this with the other people, and they say she's not going to change.
Okay.
And for the other person, again, she's been in that position for 12 years.
Yeah.
And again, it was only after I got to the office that I learned from other people from the scuttlebutt that that has been her modus operandi
Okay.
for the
So-
entire length of time.
So let me ask you this, John. What got you to this workshop with this topic?
It was to think about how to uh, let them know that I also feel the same way as other people have felt. And I
Right.
think both of them are aware that um, they don't treat people well.
And how prepared are you to have a tough talk with the 2 of them?
I am more prepared now than I would have been a month from ago,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I'm in a position where I have an assignment at an office that is senior to the current office that I'm in. And it's a step up in the organization chart.
Good.
And so I've started that in the last few weeks.
Great. So
And
you're really owning your value,
yes.
because that's critical to have any tough talk, is to own your value. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Great. All right. So what do your instincts tell you to do with each of them?
Well, for the person who is on par with me, I
Yes.
really don't think she's going to change. And
Okay, John, let's assume she won't change.
yes,
What will a tough talk give you?
So she still comes to me periodically,
Right?
and with intense requests,
Okay.
which I think are sort of out of line, in that
Okay.
it doesn't make sense. It would
Right.
not make sense to other people.
What would the tough talk give you with relationship to all those requests?
Having a tough talk maybe would lessen either the intensity or lessen the frequency of her demands.
There you go. So the two of you on that point could create a terms of engagement. What's
Okay.
appropriate, what's not, and if it's not, share why it's not, right? Because nobody wants to hear no, right?
Yes.
They want to hear, oh, what's behind the no? They also want to hear what's behind the yes, so they can truly understand the dynamic between the two of you and what makes most sense, what doesn't make sense. The two of you can come up with, well, actually, for that, a better person to talk to is so and so. So you're not shutting her down. You're creating a conversation that's rich, that's exploring, that really looks at each situation and what actually does make sense. So that would be a huge benefit for you, John.
Okay. I think you're right. I think you're right. It would be beneficial for me to at least have her understand that is what I would be looking for. And
yeah, and that way, whether she changes or not, you could still say, you know what, we had that conversation. That's not right for me.
Hey,
You could turn it around to her and say, well, what are your thoughts about it? Right?
yes,
Because, you know, who doesn't love to be creative and come up with solutions? I mean, a lot of people are looking for answers. Can you take care of it? Well, what they really want to do is be empowered to come up with answers and solutions on their own.
thank you.
Did anybody else want to share anything? I heard somebody else. Anything, John, around the other person?
So the other person, the difficult conversation that I would have for her, with her, is that she talks nonstop,
Right.
and I've seen her do it with other people also. She
Yeah.
talks
Yeah.
nonstop,
Okay.
and
So, John,
it's
just
not
by
clear. It's not clear what she wants.
okay.
It's just like every day she'll send like 3 emails, and it's not clear
So
to
you got
me
a
or other people what she's saying.
all right. So you got a Roger situation. Somebody just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. Okay.
Yes.
How prepared are you to have a tough talk? I would call it tough feedback with her.
So, I have started to try to do that. So, about a week ago, near the end of last week, she sent out a message
Yep.
to the whole team,
Yep.
and it was about something that she and some of the leads of the team had presented at a national meeting, and I gave her some feedback, saying that um, she could not only appreciate the people on the team who were at the meeting, but at the national meeting, but the rest of the members of the team who supported them to
Right.
enable them.
How did she handle the feedback?
She responded by email to say she appreciates the feedback.
All right, good. So
And
let me
so,
ask you, John, I don't want to get bogged down in the details.
yes.
Um,
And if I may say one more thing, that was the end of last week. And yesterday, I was sitting in a meeting room and she came by and actually talked to me. And it was the very first time in like 6 months she actually talked to me.
Yeah, because there's also an art to giving feedback, right? And the critical part of feedback, just like with a tough talk, and this is actually the critical part of a tough talk, is the setup or the frame for the conversation. So you
Okay.
share with the person where you are coming from with the tough talk or with the feedback, right? It disarms the other person. They're less likely to be defensive. So can you imagine if my father, instead of shutting the door to my room, said, Jim, there's something important I'd like to talk to you about. And I'm here to have a conversation with you to find out exactly what happened, your thoughts about it, and together come up with a solution. Oh my God, I would have been dead. Come into my room anytime you want, right? So that's what I mean about the setup or the frame. So you could say to your colleague, so you know what? I'm going to give you feedback. And I want you to know where I'm coming from in this feedback is to strengthen our relationship. And there's certain things that are getting in our way. And I'm going to give you the feedback in the most supportive way so we can open up communication. We can find out exactly what each of us really needs and together brainstorm solutions to make it happen. Oh my God. How many times do people hear that? Not very often. So the setup of a tough talk is actually the critical piece.
Okay. That's very helpful to me. Thank
Thoughts,
you.
everybody, about the setup, the frame?
Jim, there is this tool that I use often, but I use it more in my personal tough conversations than in professional ones. I don't know if you have heard of nonviolent communication.
I have. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it means, but I know there's a book. I probably heard about it, but what does it mean for you, and how do you introduce, how do you use that in your life?
It's like a formula. It's very simple. It's like you talk about the situation as if you were a surveillance camera.
Yes.
So you don't have an opinion. It's just facts. And then you say what that situation made you feel and
Yes.
which were the needs, which of your needs were not met when that situation happened.
Yep.
So when you do that, it helps me a lot to express how I felt, which
Yep.
is someone from the other side of the conversation cannot control.
Yep.
But also at the same time, I'm not generating a judgment towards the other.
Correct.
So it works very good in personal conversations, but I don't know in professional ones, because I think it's, sorry, I might be wrong, but like sometimes in work, it's not about how I feel, but how things need
Actually,
to
you know
get
what?
done.
It actually is. And how you interact with anybody in one situation is how you want to interact with them in every other situation. Now, you may not go into the depth of the emotion and, I'm about ready to fall apart. I'm crying. No, I'm not suggesting that. But you can certainly share with a colleague, with the right setup and that safety and that ability to share. When you do that, I feel dismissed. I feel disrespected. I mean, that's a feeling, right? And actually, you know what? That's going to make a major impact. And that's not weakness. When you personalize what the impact, somebody use the word impact, on what somebody does on you, they can't deny it. They can't, no, this is my experience. Right now, to your point, you want to be factual, right? Absolutely. You don't bring in gossip or assumptions. This is what I noticed. This is what you did. This is how I took it. This is how I saw it, right? So as factual as possible, there is plenty of room to say, this is how it impacted me.
Thank you.
Right? Absolutely. because the more you personalize rather than accusing, you did this and you did this, those are fighting words. When you said that, or you took that action or inaction, this is how it impacted. And thank you for that word. I think it was Donald who used the word impacted early on. You know, this is how it impacted me. Powerful word. And you could also combine that with what would work for me. And if you say this, then I will be more present and willing to collaborate with you to come up with better solutions, whatever it is. So I encourage you, Louis Sean, bring that into your career as well.
Thank you, Jim. I
Yeah.
think Moss has a question he wrote in the chat.
Sure. Go Moss.
Oh no, I was just filling in the 4 out of the 5 things I remembered. Is the last one supported?
Yeah, so it's valued, respected, heard, understood, seen, and supported.
Okay.
And you could add anything else you want as well. Right? So you don't necessarily in each situation, you know, in your career at the office, talk about, well, my father did that, and you know, no, you don't want to be a, you know, a total mess, right? But there's a very professional way to say, when you do this, let me point out how it impacts me. Because chances are they're not aware of it. And if they are, then maybe somebody else needs to be involved, or maybe it's not the right fit for you or the right place to be. So thoughts, Louis Sean, about bringing that into your career?
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, it's all human interaction. That's why it's all the same. Yeah, maybe the degree is different, but you absolutely can share. Say I'm not feeling valued, and that's not very motivating. And put out your needs. What I do need, put out your needs.
This is something I would like to share with Roger and John.
Sure.
I'm a talker, so I have to do a lot of work listening.
Yes.
I don't want to excuse myself. Sometimes my ADD is stronger than me, and my insecurity is stronger than me. So sometimes I talk all the time to try to prove that I know something or that I'm aware.
Okay. Yeah. Good awareness.
And
yeah.
sometimes that's, in my personal case, what brings me to talk more than I should.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's the situation of the people you guys are facing, but sometimes it's their insecurity that brings them to talk too much.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah,
Go, Donald.
the impact of what you're saying relates to my thoughts about what needs to exist to promote communication, to promote the ability to have tough talks. And it seems that first of all, we have to establish human connection. Now, I'm an educator and a social scientist, and so, you know, I'm very much impacted by social science saying how disconnected, how isolated people are feeling. And so whether we're in a company situation or a personal situation, we have to establish some connectedness. And everyone wants welcome and affirmation. They want to say, you know, come, be a part of me, be a part of this, be a part of this company or whatever. And then when they feel that, then it seems like there can be more equity, more parity in conversation, because they're not trying to put stuff out there to make sure that you recognize them and that they belong, you know. And maybe that could be part of the solution to the person who over communicates or overshares or whatever.
Yeah, the word that's coming up for me is controlling.
Mhm.
You know, they want to control. in every
Mhm.
sense of the word.
Mhm.
And that almost always never works, right? No, exactly. So, Louis Sean, a thought that came to my mind is to actually give the other person permission to stop you whenever they want. And sometimes it could be Rogers. What was the flag was on what? What was the object?
On a little plastic ruler,
Yeah. So
which I had on my desk.
you can have a ruler, or you can have I mean, as long as the other person is not insulted by it, or you could go like,
Yes,
my turn.
yes.
Like,
Or I was thinking
yeah, or
the timeout.
Yeah, just like in baseball, the coaches are
Yes,
constantly giving, this, this, and whatever it is. Just be sure you don't mix them up.
yes.
But that could be part of the terms of engagement, is give the other person permission to say, all that, my turn.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Whatever works. And that will nurture the conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
The other
That's
person
right.
permission to say, whenever you're lost, or if there's anything you don't understand, stop me immediately.
Yes, yes.
That's all bold. It's all courageous.
Yep. And interestingly, I think it was Louis saying that perhaps it's lacks confidence. When we started working together, we had a session where we explained what each other did, what we did in our businesses. And as you might know, I'm an accountant, so I was explaining accounting to him, and he said, "No, I've been a CEO. I understand all this stuff perfectly." Yeah. So I went, "Oh, okay." So, but now that we're working quite closely on a mutual client, he doesn't know very much at all about accounting, and he ran his businesses from the profit and loss. And I said, "Well, you can't do that. You've got to use the balance sheet and the cash flow," which went over his head. But then I said to him the other day, "Look, knowing your balance sheet proves your profit and loss is right." And he went, "What?" So he didn't understand that, I suppose, is the point I'm making. So he later queried me. He said, "Wow, that's profound. I just didn't understand that." So it is a bit of confidence.
Yeah. And it's also a willingness to grow and listen to others. Right? Because if you think you know it all, you can control everything. I can't be bothered. I've got no patience. Just follow my orders.
Yes.
Then it's your choice. Can that be changed? Do you need an intervention, or you need to leave? Because a tough talk requires both people wanting to have the tough talk, deal with the tough talk, respect each other, those 6 words, and together brainstorm solutions on a human level.
Mhm. Yeah, I think they have to realize that even if the relationship is hierarchical, they're still connected to each other.
Correct. Yeah. And there are different responsibilities, absolutely. But in terms of a tough talk, we're actually equal in terms of communicating. It's personal human skills. It can be very much of an equalizer in a good way, without being disrespectful, right? Without pulling rank. It's 2 humans communicating, what's really going on, the transparency. Yes, how you feel or how it's impacting you, right? And let's come up with some solutions that work for both of us. Negotiating is a very healthy state to be in. Because negotiating is listening to each other, putting your needs out, brainstorming all possible solutions and options, and then coming to an agreement where both people win. Very different than compromise where we're all giving things up, we're losing, we don't feel so good. Whereas a very open, free-flowing, safe negotiation is actually very, very important. So let me ask Louis-Sean.
No, continue. Do your question,
So
maybe.
we discussed some of this, but I always like to ask, what gets in the way of having the tough talk for everybody?
Fear and procrastination.
Say again?
Fear and procrastination.
Okay, great. So love those two.
Yeah.
Fear and
Yeah.
excitement and growth go together. Because if a tough talk, as I said before, if a tough talk wasn't so important, you wouldn't have fear. So fear, nervousness, anxiety actually tells you you're on the right track. You're going to have a breakthrough. You're going to grow. You're going to know exactly where you are with the other person. You may not like it. It may lead to your leaving. You'll know where you stand. And that's a lot better than, well, I don't know, or that person's never going to change, or I'll just settle, right? That's not very motivating or exciting. So fear, Donald, absolutely means you're on the right track. Because fear, unless you're running down a dark alley with 5 people with baseball bats, that's real fear. Every other fear is made up by the brain to keep you safe and small. Donald, don't go there. Oh my God, are you kidding? You're going to say that to your boss? You're going to be on the street and you're going to die, right? It's the brain makes it up. That's what the brain does. It creates fear. And then when you say fear, okay, fear is how I get there. And you take those courageous steps, guess what happens to the fear? It shrinks because it's not needed. The brain realizes, oh, you know what you're doing. Oh, you know how to have a tough talk. Oh my God, you're going to call in support. Great. Now let's have that. There's an upside. You may actually strengthen the relationship and get more respect. Wait a minute, I like this. Procrastination is very similar in that it's the brain saying, take your time, don't confront, go do your laundry, because procrastination is self-protection. Because if you say I'm a procrastinator, lets you off the hook. I'm shy.
I think there's also a fear of it not going well.
Okay, yes, and that's
right.
There's a fear of that, and that's why it's courageous to have this kind of conversation, and you can prepare. All right, what could possibly happen? What could be my responses? The setup, the frame, minimizes it going bad or wrong. And the bottom line is, if you master everything we've talked about today, you are an amazing listener. You give the best, frame and setup, and and that other individual says, I don't give a shit what you think. All right, you got your answer. Do you want to really work in that kind of situation? And who's to say it's going bad or wrong? I would say you got your answer. And if it does, to your point, Moss, go bad or it's tough or difficult, you could first of all, do that timeout, and or maybe you need to bring in somebody else. Maybe you need to bring in somebody that's a neutral mediator to calm things down, and maybe create some of those
right.
ground rules. Maybe not, to keep it safe, right? Because you need safety to have a tough talk. So, Donald, how my thoughts about fear and procrastination?
Well, that's really encouraging, because I have generally thought of fear and procrastination as being off-putting, especially the fear part. So,
off-putting what, to others?
Well, off-putting to taking action. because
well, that's what it's right. That's the purpose, right? To say I'm a
Right.
procrastinator, right? You know,
Right.
okay, I don't have to do anything.
so,
That's all it is. It's self-protection. I mean, it's
Yeah.
also a big self-judgment. I'm a procrastinator, right?
mhm.
That's
So
a
yeah,
that's
so that's a new way for me to look at those things, and
Yeah.
that's helpful.
and you know what? You can also have a very gentle, kind conversation with that procrastinator and say,
Mhm.
okay, procrastinator, let's tell me what you're thinking. And to Moss's point, what's your concern? What's the worst thing can happen? What do you need? What are you afraid of? You know, because that procrastinator, you created that for a reason. You know, it may be a reason that holds you back, but there's also some real fears. So maybe to Moss's point, you know, this person is known as I'm making this up, you know, an abuser, you know, controller. And maybe it's not safe to have a tough talk without somebody else in the room, right? So without judging the procrastinator, have a conversation. It can reveal all kinds of things. Louis-Jean.
Um, I would like to know if you can give me an advice when you are pursuing a tough talk and the person just keeps slipping away, you know, without, I don't know if one of the solutions is just face it and just confront the person, or do you have any advice of how to approach to those situations?
So are you talking about a situation where the other person is avoiding the conversation?
Yes.
Verbally, ideally, if not in writing. This is really important for me, right? This is really, really important. It's affecting my relationship with you. I'm making this up. It's affecting my workflow. And I really want, and again, you put the setup. I would love to have a very open, transparent conversation with you. Same thing. To really get where we're each coming from. How can we foster open communication? I wouldn't say, you know, come up, figure out why you're avoiding this, right? So you don't want to accuse the other person. Just say, or you could say, look, I've noticed, you know, I've made requests, you know, many times without us having it. And I really am very frustrated. You could put that out there. This is really important for me and my relationship to you. So how about Thursday at 3 o'clock in the conference room, or give two different times, right? So yeah, take the initiative. You know, be clear about how important it is and why it's important for you, and where you're coming from in the conversation, and the positive reasons you want to have it, right? Because nobody wants to know this is an attack. I got to defend myself. Then you're not going to have a conversation. So when you write, it's personal, it's positive, and it's diffusing the other person from being defensive, justifying, or going to feel like they're going to be attacked.
Thank you. While you were sharing with me, I was sending the message. So thank you for facilitating me just to do it. I was hearing to you, but I was just taking action. Thank
See
you.
what happens at StartOut? Instant action. We love that.
Jim, do you feel that sometimes procrastination or no answer, no response is in fact an answer? You know, if the other
Well,
person does not want to engage, is that an
well,
answer?
well, that's an assumption,
Mhm.
right? And you want to stay away from assumptions.
Okay.
It may be true, it may not be true. Why live in that I don't know land? Right? Now, silence, yes, you could say they're not responding or they're not taking action. And it's like, okay, since they're not, I will.
Hmm.
Right? So silence is simply they're not communicating. What do you know? They're not communicating. That's all you know. They're not taking initiative to have the meeting or to bring it up. That's all you know. You don't know why or anything else around it. You never want to speak for another person.
Mhm.
And it could be a sign that, okay, your turn to initiate and do the verbal or email that Louis Sean just said. Yeah, because if you get into silence means this and this and this, that person is going to drive you crazy. You'll probably keep thinking of different things and things and things. Go to, like Louis Sean said earlier, what are the facts? The person has not responded after 5 emails. Okay, something is clearly going on. Or I'm not communicating, the importance of it. Or now it's my turn to take the initiative. Because if you make the assumption, you can often go, okay, that's it. So I'm not gonna do anything else. I'll have to live with it. That's coping. And this workshop is not about coping. It's about taking bold, courageous steps. How's that response, Donald?
Good. I get that.
Hey, Moss.
Yeah, I just want to go back to something you said before. You were making a differentiation between negotiation and compromise. And it seems to me that there's a big overlap between the two.
There are some, yes, there are, yes. Yeah. What I meant by that is there's a different energy to it, right? So yeah, in compromising, you can have parts of negotiating. All I'm saying is I like the word negotiate. Let's negotiate, right? There's an energy to it. We're both present. We both want each other to win. We want to know each other's needs. In compromise, that can be it can be short-circuited, right? And it could be and you want to come away from we both lost or we both had to give up things. Now in negotiating, do you give up things? Absolutely, right? So to your point, there is actually overlap. It's more the energetic way that you come to the conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think most people would say that in negotiating, you're trying to get both people to win. Most people don't approach negotiation that way. I think most commonly they're negotiating for their own interests, not for the other party. That's not the most successful way of negotiating.
Right, exactly.
Right, but yeah.
Because, to me, a negotiation is strengthening a relationship, expanding a relationship, creating trust, transparent, everything we talked about today. You bring that all to a negotiating, oh my God, if you say to the other person, all right, what's the number one thing you need to bring back to your company? Value, respected, heard, understood, and supported. Bring that to the negotiation. All right, we've got about 6 minutes remaining. I can't believe it. So let's do a closing go round and share with your colleagues here at StartOut. What are your takeaways going to be? And we'll start with Moss.
Oh, I just think it's a refresher for me. I mean, these are not new concepts, but I think it's good to hear them again. You can almost never hear them enough. So thank you.
Excellent. Donald, takeaways.
Well, I'm going to take away this. Since we are from different points of the globe, there's a certain universality around the issues that we've discussed and the solutions that we've discussed. And that's encouraging.
Beautiful. Thank you. Roger.
Quite a few things. It's been good. I think the important conversation, negotiations, healthy, fear shrinks if you take the steps, the time out. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. And the 6 points: valued, respected, understood, heard, seen, and supported.
Beautiful. Thank you. Louis Sean, takeaways.
I love the thing of owing. I love using the word, I mean, you use the word owing in certain things, and I think That's one of my takeaways.
What's,
And
let's say, what's the word? Owing?
owing, yeah, owing what I know, owing your
Oh,
values.
yes, own what I, yes, own,
Yeah.
embrace. Great,
Owning, yeah,
yes.
owning, and I love this phrase that you gave, that it's this is really important for me.
Yes,
I think when you say that, it's so meaningful and so honest, that it's difficult for someone to run away from that.
there you go. Correct.
Thank you for that.
John, takeaways. John, if you're there? There he
I'm
is.
here. I had problems getting myself off mute.
That's okay.
So I had several takeaways, but the most important takeaway for me is that I should not let fear and procrastination hold me back.
There you go. Beautiful. Or John, or anything else.
Or anything else. Absolutely.
There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing and very engaged. I love to be challenged. I love when new things throw my way. That gets me lit up. And when others have insights and new ways of looking at things, reframing as we call it, that brings me great joy as a coach. And you gave me many of those tonight. So good night to everybody from all parts of the globe. And I'll see you in my next workshop at StartOut.
Great.
Thank you very
Take care.
much, James.
Everybody.
Thank
Ciao,
you.
ciao to everyone.
Nice to meet you all.